to stop supplying the weapons that Israel are using to massacre and murder Palestinian people.
See behind me, we've got the Palestinian demonstration going on. I'm here with a gentleman named Ian, who's come to join the march for the ceasefire for Palestine. Ian, thanks for joining me. I'd like to know what brings you here today, Ian?
What brings me here is I wish to take part in this mass movement against the genocide that's been perpetrated by Western governments. I'm hoping that this is a start of something that will make the rulers of this planet think twice about what they're doing. It's a long history from the Balfour Agreement, with British imperialism being one of the principal criminal elements in creating an apartheid regime which systematically discriminates against the Palestinian population, to the extent that we see both from 1948, where they drove out nearly 1 million Palestinians, referred to as the Nakba, where people were slaughtered and murdered, to build an imperialist police station in the Middle East to effectively control the oil supplies and Western interests. And it's high time that people around the world joined these demonstrations, and I hope that it would lead to also strike action, and also strike action by workers working in the military companies to stop supplying the weapons that Israel are using to massacre and murder Palestinian people.
Ian, thank you so much for that. Very much very informative. I've got just a couple of questions, if you don't mind me asking. What is, in your view, is the solution?
It is very important to get this ceasefire and achieve this ceasefire, and the way we do it is through mass mobilization. Ideally, it can be achieved with strike action. I believe things have probably gone too far now for a independent Palestinian state, but a ceasefire is vital, and also for the borders with Egypt to be open to allow the free flow of people and medical aid, food and water supplies to be restored. And hopefully these demonstrations will force them to reconsider their actions, because by people demonstrating, we should expose the realities of who these people actually are, why they're doing it, and to expose them to the point, and shaming them to the point that maybe they will stop this carnage. But the ceasefire is absolutely vital. Otherwise, we're going to see this horrific situation continue. There is no, other than the physical demands of people and pressure that needs to be applied. Hopefully economic, what I want to see in the very short is economic pressure put on Israel, put on all the arms companies by people coming together and going on strike. That's what I'm hoping that these demonstrations will spark.
And thank you so much again for your insight, Ian. One final question. I know you want to get off on the march, and you perhaps have your group with you. Your group with you that you don't want them to obviously leave you, and you're trying to find your way on your own. Why do you feel that the Israeli Defense Forces are resorting to bombing the Palestinians from the sky, as opposed to, I mean, I know they've started a ground invasion now, but why do you think that this was not the case in the first place, that they went in on the ground, but instead they resorted to bombing from the warplanes at the cost of more than 10,000 lives on the ground? Palestinians, UN personnel, the press as well. Why do you think they resorted to this tactic instead of a ground invasion initially?
I think that the reason goes back a few decades where unlike with South Africa, you had a substantial black working class. What's been happening with the Palestinians is their labour has been required less and less. They've been prevented from working, and the Israeli economy has moved further towards arms production. It's been supplied with more money by the United States and Britain, and as a result, the politics of Israel has moved further and further become more and more right-wing, to the point that they've decided to basically murder these people simply because they don't need them anymore, and it's one of the reasons they're resorting to indiscriminate bombing. I mean, obviously there is a military element to this because they want to reduce the killing of their own soldiers, but the reality is that the marginalization has allowed the Israeli state to become more right-wing, more bloodthirsty and more cruel towards these people, and it's going to be far more difficult. Although a lot of people were in the fighting against apartheid in South Africa, a lot of people lost Steve Biko, a lot of people lost their lives, and it took quite a struggle to achieve it. So it's going to be a very difficult, I have no illusions, it's going to be far more difficult to achieve the liberation of Palestine than it was in the case of fighting apartheid South Africa.
Ian,
I'm sorry to say.
I thank you so much for your time. It was, this was not a planned interview. I literally just approached Ian in this area not long ago, and he was ready to march. I very, very much appreciate you joining me, Ian. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
I wish you all the best today, and I hope that your voice, among the other voices, is heard, and the ceasefire it commences, and that lives are spared. There's been too much loss of life already, not just as you mentioned, you may have mentioned earlier about October the 7th was not the beginning of this. It's been going on since the early part of the 20th century. I call out to anybody who has any say, any influence, to do something, put a stop to this, and put yourselves in the position of the people who are there, who were suffering. If you were there, if it was your family, would you be saying to people, "Oh, don't protest, don't raise your voice for what's happening to my family"? No, rather you'd want to go out and shout yourself for the sake of saving your family's lives and preventing any further conflict. Ian, it's a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Likewise.
Solidarity.